Baba Vanga's shocking predictions for the coming years. What if the biggest events of the next few years have already been predicted? What if the conflicts, the chaos, and even the discoveries that will shape our future were seen decades ago by a blind woman in a small Bulgarian village? This is the story of Baba Vanga, the famed mystic who is said to have predicted 9/11, the Chernobyl disaster, and more. Her followers claim she left behind a chilling vision for 2025 and beyond. A massive war, devastating natural disasters, and maybe even contact with alien life. But here's the thing, how many of these prophecies are genuine? And how many are just modern myths, supercharged by the internet and our own anxieties? Today, we're breaking down her most sensational claims to see what the future might hold, and to finally separate the facts from the fiction. The seer in the shadows, who was Baba Vanga? Before we get into the wild predictions, we need to understand the woman at the center of it all. Who exactly was Baba Vanga? Born Vangelia Gushtarova in 1911 in what's now North Macedonia, she lived a pretty normal life until one bizarre, life-changing event. When she was 12, a freak storm reportedly swept her up and tossed her into a field. She was found days later, her eyes crusted shut with sand and dust. The event left her permanently blind, but according to the legend, it's what gave her the second sight. Vanga started showing some strange abilities. She could apparently describe things happening miles away, help find lost items, and claim to speak with invisible creatures who told her about the past and the future. Her fame grew slowly, then exploded during World War II, as people desperate for news about their loved ones flocked to her home in Petriș, Bulgaria. She became so well known that even the Bulgarian Tsar, Boris III, is said to have visited her for advice. Over the years, she became a figure of national interest in socialist Bulgaria. Government officials consulted her, and her fame grew. But this is where the story gets really complicated, and where we have to plant our first seed of doubt. Baba Vanga was semi-literate. She never wrote down a single one of her own prophecies. Everything we think we know comes from the notes of her staff, the memories of visitors, or the breathless retellings of journalists. We're dealing entirely with second-hand information. It's a giant game of historical telephone, where the original message has almost certainly been warped, exaggerated, or in some cases, just completely made up. As we go through these predictions, remember that crucial fact. We aren't just analyzing prophecies, we're analyzing how a modern legend gets built. Prediction 1, the Great War of 2025. All right, let's get to the big one. First on the list is probably the most terrifying prediction tied to Baba Vanga. A great war, a global conflict that could spin out of control. Online, you'll find stories that Vanga warned 2025 would mark the start of a massive clash between East and West, complete with terrifying new weapons and maybe even nuclear fallout. One of the most famous quotes you'll see passed around is, "As soon as Syria falls, the Great War will begin." With all the geopolitical tensions in the world, Russia, China, the US, with flashpoints like Ukraine and Taiwan, it's easy to see why a prophecy like this feels so unnervingly real. It taps right into our fears about the world's stability. A prediction of a great war seems less like a mystical vision and more like a pretty safe bet on human history. But let's be real. Is there any proof she actually said this? The answer is a hard no. There is no verifiable primary source that has Baba Vanga predicting a war in 2025 or uttering the words, "Syria will fall." These quotes pop up in tabloids and on internet forums, usually with no source at all. Fact-checkers who've dug into the Vanga phenomenon agree these specific detailed predictions are almost certainly fabrications, created long after her death in 1996. It's a classic case of retrofitting. Tensions in the Middle East have been a global headline for decades. It's incredibly easy for someone to invent a prophecy, slap a famous mystic's name on it, and then claim it's coming true. The vagueness of a great war lets people connect it to any major conflict, making the prophecy seem like it's always just about to happen. While the world definitely faces real risks, blaming them on an unverified, decades-old prophecy is a step into myth, not reality. Prediction 2. The Earth strikes back. Beyond human conflict, many sources claim Vanga saw the planet itself turning against us. For the years 2025 and 2026, she supposedly predicted a period of catastrophic natural disasters. We're talking massive earthquakes, powerful volcanoes blotting out the sun, and killer tsunamis and storms wiping out coastlines. Some versions even claim a specific 7% to 8% of the Earth's landmass would be affected, causing unimaginable destruction. Just like the war prophecy, this one feels very close to home. We live in an age of undeniable climate change, with headlines constantly screaming about record heat waves, floods, and storms. So, of course, a prediction like this feels less like prophecy and more like a grim weather forecast. It's human nature to see a tragic earthquake or a violent hurricane and look for a sign that someone saw it coming. However, once again, the evidence that Vanga actually said any of this is just not there. Predicting disasters with that kind of timing is the holy grail of geology and meteorology, something modern science, with all its tech, still can't do. The idea that a mystic could nail a 2-year window for global disasters decades in advance is an extraordinary claim, and it requires extraordinary evidence. That evidence simply doesn't exist. This is where a psychological quirk called confirmation bias does all the heavy lifting. The world is a huge place, and disasters happen every year. If you make a vague prediction about earthquakes and floods, you're guaranteed to be right eventually. People remember the one time a disaster happened, the hit, and get excited that the prophecy came true. They conveniently forget all the years it didn't. The 7 to 8% of landmass detail sounds scientific and specific, but it's ultimately a meaningless, unfalsifiable number designed to make a vague warning sound more credible. It's a hallmark of a modern, internet-fueled myth. Prediction 3. Contact and the crisis from the stars. Now we move from earthly disasters to something truly out of this world. One of the wildest prophecies attached to Baba Vanga is that humanity is about to make contact with extraterrestrial life, possibly in 2025. The stories vary. Some paint a picture of a peaceful, transformative encounter. Others suggest a much darker scenario where an alien presence triggers a global crisis. This kind of claim is a perfect example of how modern myths are born in real time. A few years ago, when the interstellar object Oumuamua passed through our solar system, the paranormal corners of the internet went into a frenzy. Some claimed this was the event Vanga had foreseen. They speculated it wasn't a rock, but an alien probe. These theories got a little boost from figures like Harvard astrophysicist Avi Loeb, who has published speculative work suggesting that some interstellar objects could be alien tech. While his ideas are far from mainstream science, his name was used to add a dash of credibility to the whole thing. So, did Baba Vanga predict the arrival of Oumuamua or any other interstellar object? Let's be crystal clear. There's not a single shred of evidence she ever mentioned aliens, interstellar objects, or the year 2025 in this context. The connection is a complete fabrication. You take a vague, unverified claim about contact, find a real-world event that can be loosely twisted to fit, and mash them together into a brand new, exciting story. The discovery of objects like Oumuamua is scientifically fascinating on its own, but linking it to Baba Vanga is pure fiction. It just shows how badly we want to find mystery in the cosmos, even if we have to invent it. Okay, these claims are getting wilder, and we're just getting started. If you're finding this hunt for the truth as fascinating as we are, do us a quick favor and hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel, and you won't miss what's coming next. Prediction 4. The new human, AI, and telepathy. Next up, we turn from the outside world to a prophecy that supposedly describes a fundamental change in what it even means to be human. According to some lists of her predictions, Vanga's vision for the near future included 2 revolutionary and kinda contradictory developments. First, the rapid rise of artificial intelligence. Vanga supposedly predicted that by 2026, AI would start taking over huge parts of society, leading to mass unemployment and big ethical dilemmas. The second, and much weirder prediction, is the sudden appearance of telepathy among humans by 2025. The claim is that we'll move beyond spoken language and start communicating directly, mind to mind. The AI prediction is, once again, a perfect mirror of our current world. With the explosion of AI models in the last couple of years, the conversation about AI taking jobs is no longer sci-fi, it's a daily headline. A prophecy about AI dominance feels less like a supernatural vision and more like someone just read the news. The telepathy prediction, on the other hand, sounds like it was ripped straight from a comic book. But even this outlandish claim can be sort of connected to modern tech. With companies like Elon Musk's Neuralink working on brain-computer interfaces, the idea of tech-assisted telepathy is, at least in theory, on the far-off horizon. But you know the drill by now. Did she actually say any of this? Predictably, no. These are classic examples of prophecies that only seem to exist in online listicles. The AI prediction uses modern terms and concepts that just weren't part of the conversation during her lifetime. The telepathy prediction is a common sci-fi trope that was likely tacked onto her legend to make it sound more spectacular. These aren't prophecies from a blind mystic. They're our own modern hopes and fears, dressed up in ancient wisdom. Prediction 5, the distant future, and the sci-fi saga. To really see how the Baba Vanga myth has been stretched into pure fiction, all you have to do is look at the predictions for the distant future. This is where things go from vague warnings to a full-on science fiction epic. According to various websites, her timeline for humanity is incredibly detailed. By 2028, we'll launch a mission to Venus. By 2046, we'll have perfected synthetic organs, ending the need for transplants. By 2076, she supposedly said that communism would return in a new form. And it just keeps going. By 2111, humans will merge with robots. By 2130, we'll make contact with a different group of aliens. And by the year 3005, we'll be fighting a war on Mars. Supposedly, she saw humanity abandoning a dying Earth in 3797 and finally achieving immortality right before the universe ends in 5079. This long-term timeline is maybe the biggest red flag of all. The crazy level of detail, the focus on classic sci-fi tropes like cyborgs and space wars, and the neat story-like progression, it all reads like creative writing, not prophecy. It's highly probable that this elaborate timeline wasn't one person's vision, but was written by countless anonymous internet users over the years, each adding a new, more exciting chapter. It's basically the fan fiction of the prophecy world. It's fun to read, but it has almost nothing to do with the historical Vangelia Gushtarova. The Skeptic's Corner, how the Baba Vanga myth was made. So, how does a local mystic from a Bulgarian village become an internet-famous global prophet? Let's break down the machinery. There are 3 key ingredients: the source, our psychology, and the amplifier. First, the source. As we've said, Baba Vanga never wrote anything down. Every prediction is a second-hand account or worse. This lack of a primary source is the crack in the foundation that allows anyone to attribute anything to her without being proven wrong. Second, our psychology. Our brains are wired to find patterns, and we're suckers for a good story. This is driven by cognitive biases, especially confirmation bias, where we embrace information that confirms what we already believe and ignore everything else. You remember the one time a vague prediction about fire seemed to predict a wildfire, and you forget the 99 other times it meant nothing. This process of retrofitting, interpreting a prophecy after the fact, is the engine that keeps old myths feeling new. Third, and most important today, is the amplifier, the internet. Before the web, Vanga's fame was mostly limited to Eastern Europe, but the internet took her story global. Sensationalist websites, social media, and viral videos repeated the most shocking claims, stripping away all doubt. New fake prophecies were created and woven right into the old ones. The internet doesn't just spread myths, it actively helps create them. What we're watching with Baba Vanga isn't the preservation of ancient wisdom, but the live construction of a 21st century legend. Belief, skepticism, and the enduring mystery. So, where does that leave us with Baba Vanga and her so-called predictions for 2025? A great war, global disasters, and alien contact. After taking a closer look, it's pretty clear that the specific, sensational prophecies that grab all the headlines are almost certainly not genuine. They're a product of hearsay, fabrication, and the incredible myth-making power of the internet. And yet, her story endures. Why? Because it taps into a deep human need to believe that the chaos of the world isn't random, that somebody, somewhere, has a map. The real Baba Vanga was no doubt a remarkable person who had a huge impact on those she met. But the legendary Baba Vanga, the global prophet, is something else entirely. A cultural creation that reflects our own anxieties about the future. The truth is, the future remains unwritten. Maybe the real lesson here isn't about predicting what's to come, but about understanding how we tell stories to make sense of the world we're in right now. What do you think is the biggest force at play here? Is it genuine prophecy, our own psychology, or the internet's power to create myths? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoy unraveling mysteries and separating fact from fiction, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives. We'll see you in the next one.